So here we're looking at the Versa director screen. We have the monitor, configuration, workflows, administration, and analytics. So the configuration screens provides the mechanism to configure various network and security features. Monitor screen provides real-time monitoring of current traffic, the various devices, the health of the various devices, the health of various services, the security profiles, the policies and how they're getting applied, right? The Versa Analytics provides historical view of what transpired on the network over a period of time. So here, we can just go to configuration first, right? So in the configuration, I've selected a template, and each template is capable of hosting multiple tenants. So here the tenant is customer one. So for this template on for tenant customer one, we have the network and security and objects and definitions and some miscellaneous config. So in the network, we have zone protection profiles, right? And then in the services, we have next-gen firewall. Here we have DOS, authentication, decryption, and security, right? So when a packet enters the Versa appliance, and for that packet, if security is enabled, like with next-gen firewall and UTM, so these are the 5 modules, the security modules that we apply. First, we apply the zone protection. Okay, so once the zone protection is cleared for that packet, then we apply the DOS protection. After that, we apply the authentication policies and profiles. Then we apply decryption. Then we apply security policies and profiles. This is in this exact same order in which the security modules are applied to the packet. And once all of this processing is done, if the packet is allowed, then we forward the packet out, right? So we can just go briefly over what's in the zone protection profile. So here we have various kinds of flood detection and mitigation. We have reconnaissance detection. Various kinds of IP scans and port scans can be detected, and various kinds of anomaly-based detection, right? So at IP, UDP, TCP layer, anomalies can be detected and prevented. So once the zone protection profile is configured, then you can select any zone and apply the zone protection to that zone, right? So when you go to, for example, the interface LAN zone or the WAN zone, right? So you can apply which zone protection profile should be enabled for that particular zone. Okay. So once the zone protection is processed, then we go into the denial of service, authentication, decryption, and security. So each of these modules have policies and profiles. Okay. So the policies are actually designed to segregate the traffic into smaller different traffic streams. And depending on that traffic stream, you can apply various threat profiles, right? For denial of service, we have DOS profiles. For authentication, we have authentication profiles. For decryption, we have decryption profiles. So this also goes to the architecture, right? So where, by the time the traffic reaches the security policies, the authentication decryption is already complete. So we don't actually punt packets back and forth between different modules. And that's exactly why we ordered the security modules in this fashion, right? And if there was any DOS attack, we're not, processing some expensive DPI operations here or decryption operations. So that actually provides a mechanism to first, protect the device itself against DOS attacks, and then apply the security policies. So in the security policies, if you consider any rules here, so we have various different match criteria based on source and destination, headers and schedule, layer 7 match, user group match, right? And based on that, we can enforce, right? So here in the first 4 tabs, it's and condition. So if you specify more than one match criteria, all of that match criteria should be met. Only then the traffic will be considered as matching this particular rule. And then for that traffic, we'll enforce all of the actions you define in the enforcement tab. So here in the source and destination, we can match based on zone, based on site ID. So the site ID is actually supported only for SD-WAN traffic. For underlay traffic, the site ID doesn't apply. And for the destination and source and destination addresses, we support matching based on addresses, address groups, and geolocation. And for the address object itself, we support IPv4 uh, address prefix, a wildcard mask, range, IPv6 address prefix, FQDN, dynamic address. Headers and schedule is based on IP address, IP headers, and we also have the TCP, UDP port and protocols. We support both predefined and user-defined. Predefined services correspond to the IETF defined standard port and protocol combinations. The user-defined ones are actually per customer, right? And we have schedule-based policies, so you can create recurring, non-recurring policies based on like time of day or weekday, weekend, or policies that automatically get enabled sometime in the future and auto expire as well. We have layer 7 with application and URL match. We have support for more than 3,500 applications out of the box. We have both predefined application filters and groups, as well as user-defined applications, filters and groups. With URL categories, we have 83 predefined categories, and we also have support for user-defined categories. User group match, we have various forms of like authentication with LDAP, SAML, local database, and Kerberos, and you can match based on like users groups. And once the traffic matches all this match criteria, in enforcement, you have all aspects of security, which is like visibility with logging and packet capture, access control with allow, deny, reject, and threat prevention with various different threat profiles, right? So all aspects of security, visibility, access control, and threat prevention all in one tab. Okay. With all these threat profiles, we have provided both predefined profiles as well as user-defined profiles. Same thing with antivirus, so predefined and user-defined. And with IDS, IPS as well, we have both predefined and user-defined. And with URL filtering also, we have predefined and user-defined, right? So the details of these predefined profiles are actually available here. In the objects tab, when you go to the predefined, we have the predefined objects as well as the profiles all defined here. So if you want to look at like specifically, how the IPS profiles are configured and tuned, for example. So here we have the predefined profile recommended, and we set filters based on severity and CVSS score. So all vulnerabilities, which have CVSS score 6 to 10 get selected, right? And all attacks that have severity critical or high get included, right? So similarly, like we have a lateral movement detection profile. So this one selects all the lateral movement detection. The class type is lateral movement. Okay. So once you have configured all the policies and profiles or security configuration, you can both monitor and analyze, right? So in the monitoring screen, when you go to the devices, you can select any device, right? And within the device, you can select the services. And here we have next-gen firewall. Within the next-gen firewall, we have the DOS protection. So we discussed how the DOS protection gets applied. You can monitor in real time how that's being applied to the traffic. After zone protection is the DOS protection. So here you can actually select like how the DOS module is actually processing the traffic. We have decryption. You can monitor how the traffic is getting decrypted. Right. Okay, and you can also monitor how the security policy and profiles are getting applied. We have various threat profile monitoring. We have IP filtering, URL filtering, antivirus, IDS, IPS, various security package updates that were applied to the device and what is the status of the security updates. And you can also like look at sessions in real time. Okay, and you have the authentication policy as well. With user identification, you can monitor in real time, which users are live on the system, right? And we also have analytics, right? Here, there's a historical view of like what transpired on the network from security perspective. We provide the dashboards. You can start out high level dashboards with applications, URLs, bandwidth consuming applications, top security rules that are getting hit, the top destination IP addresses and source IP addresses. And you can also monitor based on like zones and firewall actions and top threat types. We also have the application view of the traffic. So based on the different application, and we also tag the application with risk, productivity, family, and subfamily. You can analyze, from a high level view, and then you can drill down deeper into like what this traffic is about. We also have the web view of the traffic. It was based on URL categories and URL reputation. We have the firewall view of the traffic, based on the firewall rule, the source and destination IP addresses and zones, as well as the QoS metrics applied. And we have threats based on web-based threats. We have IP-based threats, antivirus, IDS, IPS. So for every threat profile, we have like high-level dashboards, and we provide the ability to drill down deeper. When you get to the logs, right? So we actually have like detailed logs about the timestamp, which appliance logged it, the 5-tuple layer 7 match. We have the protocol action, the firewall rules selected, various kinds of like device level information, as well as the geolocation. And if the authentication was enabled, which user generated that traffic. And we also have the metrics about how many packets were sent and received, how many bytes were sent and received, what is the session duration, and what is the bandwidth consumed by that application. Right? So here, like we have a very detailed view, micro flow view of all the traffic, and you can also correlate. So for every session, depending on how many network and security functions you have enabled, and if you have enabled logging for them, and depending on that, for each session we may generate more than one log, right? So for example, here for this session there were 2 logs, right? And we have like IDP specific logs, we have antivirus specific logs, and so on, right? So depending on like how much logging you have turned on, we enable all of this different logging.